Welcome to the Teaching Mythology podcast. I'm your host, Leslie, from Education is Powerful. Come with me as we explore myths through a modern-day lens. Okay, so we're at part 3, the return for our hero, right? We've done part 1, the ordinary world, part 2. Okay, so we're at part 3, the return for our hero, right? We've done part 1, the ordinary world, part 2. Okay, so we're at part 3, the return for our hero, right? We've done part 1, the ordinary world, part 2, the initiation, and now we're coming to the return. And often these events happen very quickly at the end of the story. So the first thing is, just like we had a refusal of the call, we have a refusal of the return, where our hero does not want to return to the place where they began their journey. This is very clearly seen. I don't know that Luke says it as much as it's not even a consideration for him. He has joined the Rebel Alliance. He's not going back to Tatooine. No way. For Harry Potter, it's not a refusal of the return, but a real reluctance. We all know that Harry Potter does not want to return to the Dursleys. Next, there's a magic flight or pursuit that happens, that our hero is being chased, or they're trying to escape something. This usually happens near the end. For Luke, this actually happens like before the return. So this step isn't always happening at the very, very end after they've been heroic. But I'm going to give you an example of one that is. So for Luke, it's when Darth Vader is literally chasing him down the corridor. For Harry Potter, this is Quirrell coming after Harry, right? In the very end of the room. But I think a very clear example of this happens in The Lord of the Rings. After Frodo has destroyed the ring and they have started to make their way back home to Hobbiton, they are quite literally fighting orcs the entire way home. Now, they're heroes, but they're on this flight home. The world is not completely safe quite yet for Frodo. Like, they still have to get all these evil creatures out. Next is a stage called Rescue from Without. And this is at the point in the story where everything seemed hopeless. We think our hero is going to die. We think that they're not going to make it. They will not accomplish their quest. But they're rescued unexpectedly. And I absolutely love this because no hero can do it alone. We all need somebody. So for Luke, this happens when right as he's about to be blown to bits by Darth Vader, right as he's about to destroy the Death Star, who comes in to rescue him? Han Solo in the Millennial Falcon. He makes a shot. Darth Vader goes spinning out into the universe, and Luke has a clear path to make his shot and destroy the Death Star. And they even have that great shot of the Millennial Falcon and the remaining fighters beating away as the Death Star explodes. If Han Solo had not have come back, had not have shot at Darth Vader, Luke might not have made it because Darth Vader had a clear shot on him. In Harry Potter, this actually happened in a really metaphysical way. Is that the right word? Where we think that Voldemort is gonna kill Harry, right? They're in the last chamber. There he is. He comes running towards Harry, and Harry puts his hands on him. And what saves Harry is not himself, but his mother's love. Wow. Like, it kind of makes me want to tear up a little bit that his mother's love that he has held onto, that is literally like infused within his skin, is what saves him in the end. And then our hero will cross the return threshold. This is when they've clearly returned home. But that doesn't always mean that the journey is over for them. They might have to overcome another obstacle. For Harry, he still has to deal with the Dursleys every summer. For Luke, he doesn't return home for a long, long time. I don't think it's ever depicted, really. Does Luke return? I'm not sure. But Luke's journey certainly isn't over. Just because they destroy the Death Star doesn't mean that the Empire is falling. It just means this is a little dent in their plan. And that's okay. They're just going to build another Death Star, right? And this is where our hero becomes a Master of Two Worlds. So Master of Two Worlds is one of the last steps or stages. It means that they've conquered life in their ordinary and magical worlds or special worlds. They're often given an award or like a reward for their accomplishments. Luke gets the medal. And for Harry, I think he gains friendship. He knows that his mother's love saved him. For Harry, his isn't a tangible reward, unless you count learning magic and defeating evil tangible, but you know. But another way that we see this in Star Wars is when Luke becomes a Jedi, right? He has now, it doesn't happen at the end of the first movie in episode 4. It happens later on. So Luke becomes a Jedi and he masters that world. For Harry, he really doesn't become a master of the world until he defeats Voldemort at the very, very end, right? But those are both very epic stories. And the last stage is the freedom to live. Now that our hero has accomplished this quest, all people can live freely. So we don't see this in Star Wars or Harry Potter until the very end, until the Empire is defeated, until all of the Sith are destroyed. And for Harry Potter, it's not until Voldemort dies, is gone. They've destroyed all the Horcruxes. In these two examples, we don't see them until the very, very, very end of the stories. As a side note, I love that when they finally defeat the Empire at the end of episode 6, they're down with the Ewoks and they have celebrations, but then it shows celebrations all over the world, all over the universe, celebrating the downfall of the Empire. Okay, so now we know about the heroic journey, and we've talked about each of the steps in the heroic journey. So here's what I do in my classroom to teach these concepts. First, I teach all the stages of the heroic journey because we see these archetypes throughout the myths all over the world. And I have a test that my students do, and part of that, as a review, we watch Disney's Hercules to identify the steps to see if they have gotten it, if they can see it in a story or a movie. Because the heroic journey is so prevalent in our pop culture media and movies, it's the easiest way to help students recognize these elements. And it also helps students look for these elements because they're never 100% exact. There's always something a little bit off. But for the final test, either I will show the movie Willow from the 80s, because most students have not seen it or heard of it, so it's completely brand new to them. And it's Steven Spielberg, and we know that Steven Spielberg was a fan of the heroic journey. So I'll show Willow, and they have to identify the elements in the story, the elements of the heroic journey in the movie. Or if I don't have very much time, I will show The Sandlot from the moment the ball is hit into the backyard all the way to the end of the movie. And that is a complete heroic journey as well. But it's really important to help kids remember that the heroic journey in that sequence isn't the narrator, but it's Benny. And Benny is the hero. So they need to follow his journey through that sequence of the movie. And another thing that I do with the heroic journey is I have students look for the heroic journey in real life. So this ends up being our Q1 project after we teach the heroic journey. So students go out and they look for heroic journey stories in books, movies, or television that they know. And they then create a poster or a slideshow or a movie or a podcast. Like, there's so many different ways that they can do this, but they basically teach the heroic journey back using their example. And I have actual pictures of posters that students have made. I've had students make a mobile. I've had students do movies, books, television series, which is really fun. So I always tell them to start with what's a book, a movie, a television show that you love. Now go through and think about how you see these elements in those stories. that is the culminating project for the quarter that they do. And it's always really fun to see how kids are making connections to the heroic journey. One thing you need to be really careful of is that a lot of places online will have examples of the heroic journey, and they very rarely will use the full heroic journey like I do. They will do a truncated 12-step heroic journey. And so I tell students, if I can Google this, you cannot use it. That is the first thing I do. And part of what we do is I have each student consult with me what they want to use, and I will Google in front of them. Right there and then I'll say, for example, one that a lot of people want to do is Finding Nemo, which is a great example, but you can find every stage of the heroic journey online. And so I say, sorry, you can't do that. It's all online. I want you to do something new, something different. And so that I think is the hardest thing, but I 100% recommend that you have students do that because the heroic journey is so popular. I don't want them just copying online. I want them to actually be applying these principles and these archetypes and these stages and steps into something that they love. Then once my students have mastered the heroic journey, I will go through my mythology class, and I generally teach it by world or section, but each time we enter a different type of mythology. So whether it's Greek, Egyptian, Norse, indigenous myths, we look for elements of the heroic journey and we read heroic stories so that they can see these common threads, and we keep coming back to it. Because at the core of all of the heroic journey is that they are archetypes and symbols and common themes. And my ultimate goal for my entire mythology class is to reinforce that there is more that we have that unites us as a people worldwide than divides us. So I'm always looking for ways to show that we are connected or we have the same stories that we're telling. And the heroic journey is key to teaching that. So I teach the heroic journey first thing in the year. We do creation stories and then we do the heroic journey because both of those teach archetypal elements and themes. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you understand the heroic journey deeper than you did before. As always, I really encourage everybody to read Joseph Campbell's work to really understand the monomyth. And if you're looking for my PowerPoints that I use or my notes or my heroic journey information, you can find it linked below. The next time you're watching a movie, especially any Disney or Pixar or action adventure movie, look for the heroic journey. Like, you will see elements of the heroic journey everywhere. Thanks for joining me today on Teaching Mythology. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.